Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the S&P Sports Show. I'm your host, Shawn Stewart, and it is March 28th, 2023. Glad to have you on this wonderful program, and my co-host, Mr. Anthony Paulus. And before we begin, I would like to say welcome to our sponsor, No House Advantage. As you can see, if you're a new user, you can sign up by using promo code S4A for a 100% deposit match up to $100. So once again, you'll see that on the ticker by using promo code S4A. So,
and what states are they good in?
So if you live in like Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, you are good to go. You are good to go. But like if you like live in like Tennessee, Arizona, you will not be able to play. So check on their website to see like the state you live in to see if you're eligible to play No House Advantage.
No House Advantage. Ooh, I kind of like that. Okay. Yeah. Interesting week. We got lots going on here. We got Final Four, Frozen Four. We got opening day coming up. Fantasy baseball drafts are happening.
Yeah.
I mean, a whole lot is going on.
Right.
So we got football news, a little bit, I guess. I guess we got a little bit of an update on the whole Aaron Rodgers saga. I guess if you want to call it that. It's not a whole lot of like earth-shattering sports news, I guess you could say, that's happening right now. I mean, you got the NBA playoffs a little bit, kind of beginning to shape up, so I guess at this point, let's start the show off basketball-wise.
Yeah.
And go from there. I mean, Final Four. I mean, we all saw the games. We saw the horrible refereeing throughout that whole San Diego State Creighton game Saturday.
Oh, yes.
Let me say this. That's the same guy that blew the end of the Florida Atlantic Memphis game. That dude shouldn't be reffing. That officiating crew should not be involved in another game at the Final Four. No offense, but that game should have gone to overtime. Now, the calls were bad on both ends of the floor, but you can't make a foul call like that with 1.2 left on the clock. I mean, you just can't. At that point, you just got to play it out.
No, I was getting ready to say you should let it out play. That's what I was.
You got to play it out. Now, it is what it is, and San Diego State's going through, and that program has come a long ways. Let me tell you, that program. Exactly. Former Michigan coach Steve Fisher, even though he's no longer the coach and he's retired, he's the one that brought that program back. Because when he took over, nobody gave a damn about basketball at San Diego State. Okay? Nobody gave a flying you-know-what. I'm not going to say the words here, but nobody gave a flying you-know-what. And he came back and he brought that program back. I mean, he didn't get him to a Final Four, but
it was good
without him, Kawhi Leonard never goes to San Diego State. I can tell you that much.
Right.
And that program doesn't have the resurgence that it did or gets the brand new basketball arena that it got. I mean, it's literally the hottest sports ticket in town. Because what else do they got in San Diego other than the Padres?
That's about it.
I mean, no offense to the fathers or anything, but, it is what it
Chargers
is.
left.
Well, the Chargers ain't no longer there,
Right.
So it's the Padres and the Aztecs. And then, San Diego State football, but, I guess they're not bad. They're 8-4, 7-5. And, it's kind of usually a good season. But let me say this about San Diego State and, expansion. They could be a candidate for Pac-12 expansion. Because, with USC leaving and UCLA, they need 2 more teams. Okay?
Got it.
San Diego, it's a big market.
Right.
It doesn't have a college team filling that mold right now, and it doesn't have an NFL team.
That's true.
And it would fill one of the California spots left, with both major LA teams leaving.
Exactly.
So I could see San Diego State as a major coup for the Pac-12 eventually.
The question is, what was going to be the second team? That's going to be a big question.
Well, I think San Diego State is probably a lock to be one of them. As for that second team, that's a good question. And
because I really don't know.
If I was the Pac-12, I'd probably talk to Houston.
Because that is a football school, if you think about it. Houston is a football school. And basketball.
I mean, it gets your footprint into Houston and in the Texas and one of the largest media markets in the country. And and you're going westward. I mean, the only other thing I think you could really consider at this point would be both Kansas schools. Or you could take Kansas but not take Kansas State, for instance. Or but Kansas is in Lawrence. It's not like it's in Kansas City,
Right. It's the state Kansas.
I mean, it's just not that appealing, I don't think.
No.
I think San Diego State, you could go to Boise, but it's Idaho.
I don't think many people don't know Idaho like that, Boise State like that.
So, I think you got to think like San Diego State because it's going to, in Houston, I got to think those would be the 2 biggest schools. You could try to get BYU, but you already have Utah.
Right. I don't think that would work.
So it's not like you would need BYU because you already have the Utes.
Exactly.
So San Diego State, I would go after Houston. They seem like, or Baylor. Baylor, you could go after Baylor, TCU.
The 4-4 area.
You're probably, and to be honest with you, you're probably thinking 4 schools to get to 16 teams because with California leaving and UCLA, you're down to 10. Right? Or they're already at 14 and going to 12, whatever. You're probably thinking, actually, you need 4 teams. Right? So you're probably thinking like Houston, Baylor, TCU. You're probably thinking a couple different Texas schools. probably it's San Diego State and maybe Kansas. I mean, I really do not think that San Diego State's going to be in the Pac-12 that much longer. I just don't see it. I think they're finally at a point where they're ready to make that move, but we'll see. Anyways, another school that you would think, 10 years ago would have been in a major conference by now would be out in the East is UConn. And let me tell you, they probably looked the most impressive this past weekend.
Oh, yeah, they've been blowing teams out
Man,
like crazy.
they blew the barn doors off of Arkansas.
Exactly.
And they beat the snot out of Gonzaga. My goodness. I mean, going into the weekend here, okay, going into the Final Four, they probably got to be considered the favorites.
Right now, they should be.
I mean, out of the remaining 4 teams, UConn and Miami are the favorites. And whoever wins that game is probably going to be considered the favorite to win on Monday night next week. Because you got San Diego State on one side, right?
Right.
And they're facing Florida Atlantic. And then you've got UConn and Miami on the other.
That's going to be the interesting one between those two, Miami and UConn. That'll be must-see TV.
I mean, it's guaranteed that at least a 5 seed's getting into the final. And a 4 at the worst. At the best, I should say, technically speaking.
Right.
I mean, I won't be shocked if Florida Atlantic beats San Diego State, and we'll get in, or San Diego State beats Florida Atlantic. Okay, but going into let me talk about Miami here.
Please do.
Okay, this is the second time that they've made it to the Elite Eight in a row. Their head coach, this is his second Final Four because this is the same guy who took George Mason to the Final Four.
2006.
Okay? A little bit more experience. This guy can coach, okay? And he's built for the tournament. In Miami, they can play with, hey, if they beat Texas, and dude, they were down by like 16 and came back.
That's impressive.
I mean, you're not going to be able to do that against UConn, okay?
Right.
But they can play. But I think the winner of that game ends up probably winning the national title on Sunday or Monday.
Monday.
Now, last week, right? What did I say about Miami last week? That they were going to handle Houston. Did I not say that?
You did say that, and then they beat Houston, and that because they got that defense and them guards. Houston just didn't impress me this season. Like I said, all I needed to see from Houston this season was the one game I actually watched. And that was against Temple. Okay? They only have had like 2 games against top 25 teams during the season. And they didn't do much. And they blew a big lead in one of them to Alabama. That's bad enough.
Just nothing impressed me about Houston. I'm sorry, but Calvin Sampson is a folder. Okay? I'm not saying he's Doc Rivers, okay? Because,
That's totally different.
it's different. Okay? I mean, we know Calvin Sampson had his issues at Indiana and Oklahoma with probation issues and was out of college basketball and an assistant coach with the Bucks and some other NBA teams and got back into it. And, he's at Houston and he'll probably be at Houston for a while. And things are going to be a little different for him when Houston goes to the Big 12, let me tell you. He's got it nice and cushy in the American for another season. I won't be shocked if he makes a coaching switch at some point to avoid the Big 12 or goes from, stays at Houston for a season when he's in the Big 12 and then makes the dip. That's just the way Calvin is. Let me say this about Florida Atlantic. All the metrics were there after this weekend, going into the weekend to have them advance. They're athletic, they're physical, they get after it, they're lean. That bracket, you had Princeton and you didn't have Princeton, but you had wasn't exactly strong. Okay. That region was probably the weakest region going into the tournament to start with. So it doesn't shock me that a 9 seed made it out of that region. It just wasn't a particularly strong region.
Because you talk about the region with Purdue, right?
Now, let me also talk about one other game during the week, but that was the Tennessee game. On what did I say would happen to Tennessee if they were not going to advance? That Vescovi would get bottled up, and what did he do? They handled him. They handled him to the tune of 3. He went 3 for 11. And they bottled everybody else up, and they did what they had to do. But Vescovi was the key. And guess what? They handled him. Tennessee lived and died through Vescovi this season. And, I saw it coming. I saw it coming this weekend.
4 rebounds and 4 assists.
Like right now, so, we got 14 left. UConn's got to be the favorite coming into the weekend. Yes, they probably have the tougher opponent in Miami. Mm-hmm. If they handle Miami, they're going to probably win the national title.
It looks like it.
The other game, I think it's a toss-up. You would think experience-wise and everything else, and San Diego State plays that style of defense, 50s and 60s. If the scoring is like a high 50s, low 60s game, San Diego State will probably win that game. On the other hand, anything above 60, it goes high 60s or 70s. Florida Atlantic will probably win that game. I think whoever wins that game, it's going to be determined by the style of play. Whose style remains a choice. Now, Florida Atlantic goes out there and they hit some threes. For forget about it, you know. But style of play is going to determine who ends up winning that game. On the other hand, the UConn-Miami game, I mean, Miami's going to probably have to hit some threes to win that game.
Correct. That's
Because,
what it looks
like, during the weekend, like, Miami was really hot from the outside, okay?
Yeah. It was on fire.
And that trend's going to have to continue against UConn. It's just going to have to. I mean, if they don't shoot hot from the outside, if they're just average from the outside, they're probably going to lose to UConn.
Because they had the 3-pointers 11 times out of 25. Talking about Miami.
Yeah, I mean, that's 44%. You hit 44% from three, you're probably going to win most games.
Right.
You know, on the other hand, if they shoot like 33% from three or less, they're going to probably lose against UConn. Because UConn is built inside and out. So, and UConn can play, you know, UConn's got talent across the board. So, I mean, I like UConn to win, but I'm not going to be shocked if Miami does. I mean, I'm gonna predict a UConn San Diego State final.
And that'll be the first time Brian Dutch will be in the championship as a head coach, former Michigan assistant coach.
Yeah, hard to believe. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? That would be pretty crazy. I'm gonna go a UConn San Diego State final, and I think UConn will end up winning that game. I think UConn's going to win the Natty at this point. I mean, you know what? As crazy as things have gone, yep. I mean, let me say this. Any of these four teams can win it all. I'll say this much. I'll tell you who's not happy about these four teams making the Final Four, though. That's CBS.
Oh, yeah. Especially Jim Nantz last Final Four.
Well, I don't know if Jim Nantz is necessarily not happy about it, but the executives got to be. There's no blue bloods. I mean, the question you got to ask yourself, there's no blue bloods left in the tournament. You know, no major big schools. I mean,
no Duke.
You know, the schools with the big bases. You know, like for instance, let me give you an example. Michigan State Marquette had 9.5 million viewers. Okay?
All right.
I don't know if you're going to get that for Florida Atlantic and San Diego State on Saturday night.
Because most people don't even watch that if you're an East Coast.
I mean, not exactly a lot of Florida Atlantic Owl fans out there.
Yeah.
And you know, not exactly a ton of San Diego State Aztecs fans.
Right.
You know, not exactly two of the biggest media markets.
But there is some.
And then you got UConn and Miami. That game will generate a little bit more. That game will probably have a higher viewership rating.
And the fan base.
Nobody from the West Coast is going to give a damn about that game. That game's going to be like a tale of coast. I mean, I think this is going to be one of the lower rated Final Fours in terms of viewership that we've seen in a very long time.
That'd be great.
And let me say this. And let me say this also, Shawn, that
Sure.
this parity in college basketball, as far as like the tournament goes and seeds and that kind of stuff, I think it's here to stay for a while. There's going to be no dominant college basketball team for quite a while. Like next season, I mean, who's going to be the dominant? Let's think ahead.
Okay.
What team right now did you think it was going to be the dominant school next year?
I can't tell you right now.
Because there isn't. There's parity. I have to say, this is the most parity in the college game that we've seen. Now, I don't know if it's good for the game, to be honest. Okay?
Right.
Just for the simple fact that usually you got one or two schools in a season that just wreck shop and handle business and go into the tournament, world killers.
Yep.
You don't have that right now in college basketball.
Oh,
And
no.
I think, some of this, I think it's a trickle down effect. I really do, to some degree, of the way the game of basketball has become. And I don't think it's going to change, in terms of the softness of basketball. Yes, I said softness because you know what?
There's no defense, hardly any defense in basketball. Oh, there you go. I was saying it's hardly any defense in college basketball in general. I think we lost them. Let me see. I think we may lost them. Huh. I think we may lost them. Oh, I'm back. Huh. So we'll probably be right back as we're speaking, as I'm speaking right now. But let me see. I should have a video clip. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna play a clip called Nerd Focus, one of our sponsors. Okay, there we go. So that was our sponsor, Nerd Focus Energy Drink. So if you are listening, whether you are listening on the YouTube channel or on the audio version, if you have any questions, there will be questions on the email address as well. Let me see. One sec. Let's see. All right. So let me see if you can log out and log back in. Because usually it'd be all right by the end. So we're gonna give him a couple of minutes, and then we'll be back where we're at. And as while he was talking, I was looking up what was the lowest TV rated national championship. Lowest TV rated college see. So the least was watched was the Villanova Michigan game. That's what it was. So, here we go. Okay, here we go.
There we go.
All right. Because you were saying about I was looking up the lowest rated TV for college basketball. The lowest one was the 2018 Michigan Villanova game for national championship.
Yeah, well, which is kind of shocking, right?
Right, because both of them are brands anyway. That's the shocking part.
Well, let me say this. I think this one's going to top it all. Especially you get if UConn loses and it becomes a Miami. If this thing's a Miami, Florida, Atlantic final, the whole state of Florida will watch it. But that's it. No one else is going to watch. I mean, they'll watch, but imagine.
Like a huge.
Dude, I think that's the worst case scenario right now is a Miami, Florida Atlantic final for CBS.
CBS would be so angry. They'd be so angry.
I think CBS right now prefers a San Diego State UConn game.
And the other thing is, I don't know anybody in the East Coast follows San Diego State like that, unless you were a fan of Steve Fisher like that.
I mean, honestly, I just do not see. I mean, honestly, this thing has possible ramifications. I mean, it doesn't look good, I think. For man, hey, that's what they paid for. That's where we're at with college basketball right now. So I mean, it is what it is, right?
Right, and then next year TBS is going to do it.
I mean, next year, who knows? You know, we'll see what happens. But right now, I mean, this is where we're at right now.
Right. And the last time we ever had a back-to-back was in 2007 with the Florida Gators. People don't remember that part.
Yep. So I mean, it's crazy right now to think of where we're at right now in terms of college basketball right now. So
it hasn't been the same.
No, it hasn't. So I guess we'll see going forward where we're at.
Right.
That's for sure. Now, let's switch topics here and talk college hockey.
Yes. Give us the
so we got the Frozen Four. So before I get into a complete breakdown about this,
okay,
the Big Ten was pretty dominant this past weekend.
Great news.
It was dominant. I mean, they won all of their opening games. It was like what, 8, 8, 9, and 11. So they scored 38 goals and gave up 2 goals in the opening round games. 38-2. That's pretty dominant. Then obviously Sunday, Minnesota won their regional to get to the Frozen Four in a 4-1, in a pretty dominating 4-1 method. And then Boston University won theirs 2-1 over Cornell. I don't know how good the East Coast is this year. I guess we're going to find out in a week from now, because the only team that kind of really did anything from the East Coast, you can say this week. I mean, yes, Boston University, they were like the number 2 team, number 3 team going into the weekend overall, number 2. Okay. Then you have Quinnipiac. They beat Ohio State 4-1 on Sunday. Thank God. And, I mean, they're a pretty good hockey team. They handled Ohio State in a good fashion. And we're going to see how they do against Michigan on next Saturday. Now, I think Michigan had the toughest regional, and I'm going to explain why. Okay? Penn State destroyed their opponent 8-0, Michigan Tech. Okay?
All right.
And Michigan beat theirs 11-1 when they beat Colgate. Now, that regional this past weekend was in Allenton, Pennsylvania, not that far from Penn State. So when they played that regional Sunday night, if anybody was watching that game, anybody noticed that those Penn State logos on the ice, like center ice? That's because Penn State was hosting the tournament. Because they picked these regional sites, and they're the host. It's not that far from State Valley, PA. So it was a mainly Pennsylvania crowd there Sunday, mainly Penn State fans. I mean, there were some Michigan fans, don't get me wrong, but the majority of people there were rooting for Penn State. It was like a Penn State home game almost. And, yeah, Michigan came out flat the first 30 minutes of the game. They played like crap. And they were only down 1-0. But the last 12 minutes of the game and overtime for the 40-something, 50 seconds overtime, that was purely dominated by Michigan. And for them to overcome that in that atmosphere in a road game and to handle business and to advance, I think proves something. And, Minnesota on paper might have the best team in the country, might. But Michigan won the Big Ten tournament. And Michigan and Minnesota are like 1A and 1B. And they could meet each other in the finals. I'm not trying to say, you have Boston University and you have Quinnipiac.
Never heard of that school before. Quinnipiac.
But let me say this. This Michigan team can win it all. They have the best offense in the country. And they score in bunches, and they have the best player in college hockey. Now, as long as Michigan's defense holds the form and they can put some goals up, they can win the national title. They should be able to beat Quinnipiac. I think Minnesota has the tougher game against Boston. I'm not going to say Quinnipiac's going to be a rollover, but Michigan should win that game. But Quinnipiac just beat Ohio State 4-1. I don't know how good Quinnipiac, but we're going to find out. on Saturday, next Saturday.
Okay. That's the 8th.
That's a 6th. They play
That's
each other. The semifinals are on the 6th.
Okay.
And then the national title game's on the 8th.
Oh, okay.
So they
Okay.
give them a week off because, the Final Four is going on this weekend. So, they
Okay.
give the kids like a 10, 12-day break and then, go at it. Because they don't want, NCAA's got to make their TV money.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And they don't want to put hockey competing against basketball. But then nobody's getting, a lot of people aren't going to watch it. So here's the thing. And it's Easter weekend, too. So gives people something to watch.
Exactly.
Right? Plus, we got the Masters coming up, but that's a whole nother story,
Right.
with that coming up eventually, too.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Can't wait for that.
But, any of these 4 teams can win it, but you got to think Michigan and Minnesota are probably the favorites to win it all. I'll say they're the co-favorites. It'll be interesting, that's for sure. And they're playing this game down in Tampa Bay at Amalie Arena, where the Tampa Bay Lightning play.
Okay. Not too far.
Not too far. Exactly. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Now I found something to watch.
Yep, you got something to watch after basketball. Exactly. Now, let's get to some NFL here.
Yeah, the Aaron Rodgers situation.
Well, is this thing ever going to get handled? Who knows? But I think, according to the news finally, and after the, Packers GM Gutekunst pretty much said that they're not going to get the Jets' first-round pick this year. And that they tried to get in touch with Aaron all off season and couldn't.
Yikes.
The Packers are the ones that are desperate, folks. It isn't the Jets. The Jets can wait this out. Because if the Jets say no, then Aaron's got to go back to Green Bay. That's the last thing the Packers want. The last. Okay? There's no way in hell they want Aaron Rodgers back in Green Bay. Because they got to decide in May whether or not they're going to give Jordan Love that $10 million 5th year. Okay? Or they got to add it onto the books or whatever. But if Aaron Rodgers is back somehow, man, the chaos that's going to cause. Good Lord.
That story keeps popping up. Because before the show, I heard that the Jets were discussing like a too high draft pick, but you already said it anyway.
I'm going to say this. It depends how much cap room, how much money the Jets are going to eat. He's not worth the first. He's 40 years old. You ain't giving up a first-round pick for a 40-year-old quarterback.
You'll be stupid.
You might give him a second. Here's the thing. Brett Favre went for a 4th.
Right, because he was old. He was
Man,
like
if the
39.
Jets are dumb enough to pay like a second and a second or a second and a future possible one play, dude, then the Jets are stupid.
Because the GM for the Jets can't make this dumb move.
I mean, I'm sorry. You know what? Give them a second and just run. You can either have a second or you can have a fourth and a third and run. And even I think that's too much, to be honest with you, with a $60 million nameplate. And then you got to eat the contract for $100 million for 2 more years and no guarantee that he'll play after next season. Yeah. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. I'm sorry. But you know what? At 13, who knows? Maybe you need to draft another quarterback. Just run with it. Maybe just suck it up and throw Zach Wilson out there and call it a day. Go sign Teddy Bridgewater. Throw Zach Wilson to the Wolves. And call it a day. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, I wouldn't trade for Aaron Rodgers.
Now, with no first rounder, I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't even give the Packers a second rounder.
Fourth and fifth.
I would give them a third as long as Aaron Rodgers played more than enough snaps this season. Otherwise, it's a fourth. A fourth, we'll say this, a fourth can be a third based on snaps, can be a second if you make the playoffs, and a first if you win the Super Bowl.
That would be nice if he did take the
There you go.
Super Bowl. Then also hear about the Lamar Jackson because from what I heard, he requested a trade early this month. Just found that out.
You know what? The only team right now, there's the only 2 teams right now that seem like that could be possibilities would be the Colts and the Patriots.
Oh. If he goes with the Colts, he's going to have to deal with a bad offensive line.
Yep, it's not the Ravens O-line.
Exactly.
But he's got some semi-decent receivers. He's got Michael Pittman, who's not bad, and he's got a running back, but he's got no offensive line.
That's the bad part about the Colts. They do got a good defense. I will say that about the Colts.
I mean, what's an acceptable trade? Let's say they decided to make a sign and trade. My guess would be the Colts would give them the 4th overall pick in the draft. And the Ravens would give them Lamar Jackson and their first round pick. And then maybe like a second rounder.
That wouldn't be so bad for the Colts.
That wouldn't be bad for either team. Because then the Ravens can either go defense or take a quarterback at 4. Or they can trade back and get a slew of wide receivers. Because their big free agent signing this far, Nelson Aguilar, isn't going to exactly cut it. That wide receiver core is trash.
Right. I can't even name any wide receiver for the Ravens so far.
I mean, Duvernay, Elagor, Justin Bateman. I mean,
they're okay.
It's a bunch of number 3s, pretty much. Essentially, that's what they got.
Exactly.
A bunch of number 3 wide receivers. It's what they got. They don't got
to do it is a tight end. That's their best pick.
Hey, they should be the ones contacting the Cardinals about Lamar about Hopkins.
Oh, they had Hopkins. The Ravens have Hopkins. Oh my goodness, he'll definitely be number one.
But the thing is this. I think the Cardinals are asking too much. And let me explain. The guy hasn't really finished a season in like 2 or 3 years. Coming off a PED thing. Didn't finish this season. Didn't finish the season before. He played like 4 games last year or something. 5?
Yeah,
But then actually, he played like 7 games. But the games that he played in, he was putting up numbers, okay? But the man can't stay on the damn field. Now, if he could stay on the field and was putting up those damn numbers, be a whole nother story. But he can't put up numbers. He can't. Now, let me talk about the Lions here for a little bit.
Sure.
I got to give Brad Holmes some major props. Not only with free agency signings, but the way he's handled the salary cap situation, renegotiated contracts, the Vitae thing, man. The Okwara, man. The Lions got all these players, and they still got $25 million in cap. And they're not spending it right now. So what does that tell me?
What does that tell you?
And they're not going to get Lamar Jackson. So what does that tell me that the Lions are doing with all this damn cap space just sitting there? It probably tells me that they're probably going to make some big trade.
Right. And they said, no, we're not getting Lamar Jackson. We're good.
Right now, if I was the guess, Jeffrey Simmons from the Titans. Titans need to shed some salary. What do the Lions need the most right now?
Would it be an offensive line?
Nope, that's addressed.
Okay. Would it be defense?
Well, they need defensive tackle. They got the ends covered. They need a little bit of help at linebacker, too. And I'm not going to lie to you, I would have gave Bobby Wagner more than $7 million. For a 1-year deal, if I was the Lions, I would have offered him $9 million. Now, because, man, if you would have had him and that crew, my goodness. Woo. Then all you would have needed was a D tackle. But that's where the Lions' biggest weakness is defensive tackle. But guess what? There are still some very good free agents out there. If you're going to make a trade, Jeffrey Simmons is probably that dude right now. But let me say this.
Sure thing.
What would it take to get Aaron Donald at this point? The Rams, I'm going to say it. Hey, hear me out here. Hear me out. The Rams are in a rebuild.
Right, we get that part. But it's like who the Rams are going to get in return if they do trade them.
Just hear me out. The Rams are in a rebuild. Okay?
All right.
Aaron Donald's got like a $30 million contract. By the time you get through with this rebuild, Aaron Donald might be thinking about retiring. Because what the Rams got Matthew Stafford, who the Lions don't want back.
Right.
They got Cooper Kupp. And you got Aaron Donald. And the Lions got $25 million in cap space. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm Brad Holmes. I'm probably calling the Rams up about Kupp and Donald together.
Yeah.
You're going to probably need to trade like DeAndre Swift.
Right, because they do need a running back. Rams do need a running
Sam
back.
Akers ain't in, and DeAndre Swift's in his last year. And you got David Montgomery. You can always get another running back. That clears a little bit.
Right.
Right?
Because Rams do need a running back if you think about it.
Well, they got Cam Akers, but they don't really have a whole hell of a lot left.
Exactly my point.
And DeAndre Swift is in the last year of a deal.
So, yeah, you can trade him.
But that only frees up a little bit more money.
Ooh.
Now, you could get creative with the money and figure out some things. And then you're going to probably need to give up like the 18th pick in the draft. Hey, put it like this. If I'm giving up like the 18th pick and Swift, put it like this. I'll give you all the 18th pick and a second round pick. Go ahead. I'll give you 18 and one of those twos. Go ahead and give me Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp, and let's go win the ship. You're going to tell me if you had Kupp with St. Brown and Jameson Williams, that three-headed monster, then you have Aaron Donald in the middle, and then you'd still have the 6th overall pick?
That wouldn't be so bad. That'd be fantastic.
I got a feeling something big is in the plans for the Lions here with all of that money sitting there. I don't know what it is, but my feeling is Aaron Donald or Jeffrey Simmons. I'm going to say Aaron Donald just for the fact that the Rams are in a rebuild. Yeah, he's the most dominant defensive player in the game on the interior line. When you put him in Detroit, and then let's say you go and sign Shawn Robinson to a deal too and bring him back because he's a run stuffer. Man. It's over. You'd have I'm telling you, the only thing you know what? You got a good secondary. You can stop the run. You could draft best available linebacker, best available corners in the draft. You have a good receiving core. You got running backs, quarterback. Your offensive line is stacked. You can go BPA on defense all you want. You can take that 6th pick and trade it down a bunch of times and rack up a ton of picks. Something is brewing with all that money there, and I don't know what yet. My guess is Aaron Donald or Jeffrey Simmons. I don't know which one of the two, but my guess is got to be one of the two because the biggest need for the Lions is defensive tackle. I mean, linebacker a little bit. I mean, we could use another guy. Okay, you got Derek Barnes and Anzalone and Rodrigo. You need and you got Houston on the edge. Hell of a steal right there, right? Edge backer, Anzalone, right? But you need another back. Man, they could do some things here. The linebacker market's a little thin at linebacker. I mean, defensive tackle-wise, I mean, Shawn Robinson probably fits the best defensive tackle because the Lions can get pass rush on the inside, but they need to stop the run, which they had a little bit of trouble doing inside the Carolina game, if anybody especially remembers. And Shawn Robinson would be a great run-stuffing defensive tackle. And probably available at a reasonable cost. I mean, there are some good defensive linemen still out there. Frank Clark is out there. I mean, stay away from Davion Clowney. That's the only thing I'm going to say.
The bum.
I mean, because if you sign him to a one-year deal, he's going to get you somewhere between 0 and 3 sacks. Frank Clark, is that worth somebody looking into? At the right cost, I'd consider it. Put him on the opposite side of Aiden, 2 Michigan guys. On a one-year deal, him and Shawn Robinson still leaves you probably with enough money to make a move for another player during the season. I mean, I think that's what you got to think right now is the Lions are just holding that money and they're going to make value moves here for defensive guys. Hey, Jeffrey Simmons, Aaron Donald would be awesome. That's if there's a trade. That's got to be the top guys on my trade list. Free agency wise, Shawn Robinson, you need a D tackle. I mean, if you're going to draft Jalen Carter, you're going to need a defensive player in the interior to guide him. A Simmons. A Donald would give him that motivation. Could you imagine that tandem together inside stuffing people if Carter held up? And then you got Hutchinson and you'd probably be a run-stuffing linebacker away from having one of the best front sevens in the league. And you got Kirby Joseph, who seems like he's a pretty damn good safety. Secondary looks solid. Like I said, that money is sitting there for a reason. I don't know what reason, but it's sitting there for a reason. And I couldn't tell you why.
That was a very great topic.
I don't know.
Because we're on this is the 28th, so yeah, we got a couple weeks before the NFL draft. It's going real fast.
Exactly.
So that's why in a couple of upcoming shows we're going to be discussing more NFL because it's about to be that trend.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy right now to think of where we're at here. It's just nuts to think about right now.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is, which is crazy.
It is.
Anyways, what are we? Do we have some player props tonight, Shawn?
Yes, we do. We do have some pro props. And by the way, for those who are listening, we has partnership with No House Advantage. So if you live in the states such as Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, you are eligible to play. For the rest, you would have to go to nohouseadvantage.com to see if you are eligible to play No House Advantage. And I actually did a video about that. So we have 3, by the way. So here's the first one. So according to No House Advantage, they believe that Steph Curry will have 4 3-pointers.
Sure, why not?
Okay. Second one, Klay Thompson, 21.5 points.
I'll go with the under.
Because, yeah, he kind of struggled, by the way. He's not the same Klay Thompson like he was previously. And then I actually had CJ McCollum with 20.5 player prop.
Sure, why not?
All right. So the only one you have under is Klay Thompson with the 21.5, while the rest of them is like over. Gotcha. And also there is a hotline. So if you know someone that has a gambling problem, help is available. That is 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, and also there is a national problem gambling at 1-800-522-4700. The suicide prevention is 1-800-273-8255. Now, if you live in Ohio, it's for a gambling problem is 1-800-589-9966. In the state of Michigan, it is 1-800-270-7117. And if you live in the state of Wisconsin, it is 1-800-426-2535. So if you're 18, so the app is 18 years or older, we encourage you to gamble responsibly. Please gamble responsibly. So that way we don't want anybody to lose their minds over a game. That I don't want to see. So we will see you guys Thursday at the same time at 6:15. Of course, you know, Thursday is the first day of the season opener, which I can't wait, by the way, because the Tigers will be playing the Rays at Tampa in that boring old stadium. It looks tacky. I hate that stadium.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. The Rays should move to a better city.
Because that stadium looks garbage. Ugh.
Tampa doesn't deserve a Major League Baseball team. It doesn't.
And
hey, great for spring training, but that's it. You know, go to Nashville, go to Portland, go to Las Vegas. I think the A's are going to end up in Las Vegas. I really do. But Nashville would definitely support a baseball team.
Yeah, because I heard about the A's maybe moving to Nashville from what I've heard.
A's to Vegas, Rays to Nashville. There you go.
Okay. Too many Florida. Well, so that means there's only
one
Florida
and then
team.
that would leave Portland eventually for a baseball team.
Portland? I don't know what they would be heading to if there was a team in Portland.
Yep, I think that's about it, unless you want to put a team in Puerto Rico or Mexico City.
Or I ain't going to say North Carolina. I don't think
Charlotte would be the other one, but I don't know if they're ready for baseball. That would really ruin the Carolina League down there. Don't know if Major League Baseball wants to do that. I think Nashville is a better location for a Major League team.
Because they
got NFL, they got NHL. They're ready for Major League Baseball.
And they got a soccer team. And they got an MLS team. I forgot about that.
Yep, they can support baseball.
Good. Well, that shouldn't be no problem since they support their minor league baseball team. I forgot what their baseball team.
Yep, I think Nashville would be a great spot for the Rays to move to, and then the A's can move to Vegas.
Right, because the A's stadium looks awful. I've heard people said that the A's stadium, when they went, it was awful.
It's not a friendly confines, that's for sure.
Right, and there's a reason why the Raiders left, so go figure.
Yeah.
All right, so we will see you Thursday at 6:15 at the same time, because that will be the first day of the season opener and other stuff as well. And I'll also have the player. Hopefully, there'll be prayer props for the Final Four, and then Sunday I'll do the championship one. So, guys, have a nice and wonderful day. Thank you.